and welcome to 10 by 10. My name's Stuart Rose.
And I'm Kevin Marley.
If you're looking to buy or sell a house in 2020, we cover the top 10 topics in 10 weeks. This week we're looking at closing costs. That's everything from your lawyer's bill, land transfer tax, adjustments, and also some of those costs that maybe aren't quite so obvious at first. So if you've not been through a transaction in a good number of years, or you're a first-time buyer, there's information in this video that's going to be important to you. So Kevin, talk to us about lawyers' fees.
Well, Stu, the lawyer's there to handle the closing for you. So they're going to walk you through the process and handle all the closing costs and adjustments that need to be calculated. So that's good news. They're going to make sure that the transaction is fair to you, and ultimately they're there to protect you. Now, typically they cost between $500 and $1,500. However, depending on the size of the transaction and the complexity of the transaction, it could be more. The biggest chunk of your closing is going to be in your land transfer tax. So Stu, how do you calculate land transfer tax?
Land transfer tax is going to be the biggest closing cost that you're likely to encounter. It can be fairly laborious to work out. It's done on a sliding scale, meaning that there are different percentages depending upon how much the value of the house is. And to try and make this a bit simpler, we're going to put those up as a graphic which we've cleverly displayed in the right place on the screen. So, rather than just walk you through and repeat all this, let's take an actual example. If you're going to buy a house, the purchase price is $375,000, this is how those costs are going to break down. So the first $55,000 you get charged 0.5% for, which is $275. The next bracket, which is the portion of the house value between $55,000 and $250,000, you pay 1%. So $255,000 minus the $55,000 that you've already worked out the tax for is $195,000. And 1% of $195,000 is $1,950. The next bracket is between $250,000 and $400,000. Now, if you remember, the house we're using for our example is $375,000, so we're not actually going to use all of that bracket. So here, you just simply need to do the math. 375,000 minus the 250,000 that you've already worked out the tax for is $125,000, and $125,000 at 1.5% is $1,875 tax that you will need to pay. So to get your total amount, you literally just add them up: $275, $1,950 and $1,875 for a total of $4,100. So on that $375,000 house, that's the tax that you're going to pay. Toronto has slightly different rules and has a doubling up of that tax, so you do need to take advice if you're buying sort of in Toronto itself. But other than that, those are the broad numbers that you need to work with when trying to calculate your closing costs for land transfer tax. So Kevin, take us through some of the adjustments that we might see.
Thank you, Stu, especially for that graphic. Now the good news is the lawyer handles all the calculations done regarding adjustments. Now Stu and I have broken this down into two categories. The first are the utilities in which you deal directly with the provider. So this is your gas, hydro, and electric bills, your cable bills, and I'd also like to throw in property insurance into this category. While technically not a utility, you have to have this handled before closing. Your lender will require it before they send the funds to the lawyer. So without this, you're not getting into that home. The second category are the utilities in which the adjustments come into play. So if your home has an oil tank or a propane tank on it, this is going to be a factor to you. Property tax and condo fees are the big ones in this category. So with these, it's just simply a matter of someone's prepaid your fees for you and you're reimbursing them. Now these are the normal costs, Stu, but are there anything else that they have to be aware of?
Yeah, it's a good question. There aren't really any hidden closing costs, but there certainly are some that people do find unexpected. For example, the commission that you pay your real estate agent for selling your home. That's a good and service, and like any other good and service, HST is chargeable on that amount. Another example, which is probably even less known, is if you take out CMHC insurance, so that's for people that have less than the 20% deposit, the actual insurance premium gets wrapped up into your mortgage, and that's not something that you need to find up front. The tax, however, so PST at 8% is applicable on that insurance. That you do need to find up front. And to give you a kind of ballpark to work with, if you're buying a $500,000 house with a 10% down payment, you'd need to find $1,116 to pay the tax on that premium. Title insurance is a little bit of a grey area. In theory, you can choose not to have title insurance, but the reality of it is that the vast majority of mortgage lenders and lawyers really are going to insist on you taking out that insurance. It is not expensive. It's probably going to be a couple of $100s, but that title insurance guarantees that if there's ever a problem with your legal ownership of that title, or if there's an issue found after the closing section, anything like that, the title insurance will help you, and it is a payment well worth making. So that pretty much wraps up the unexpected costs. On the flip side of that, there is NHR, or a new home rebate. So if you're buying a new home, which you are paying HST on, it is possible that you may be able to claim some percentage of that back. A huge number of factors involved in that. The builder can sometimes be eligible to claim. It will depend on certain circumstances, the usage of the home. So it's something you really need to take advice on, but it is something you should be aware of if you're looking at a new property purchase. All right, that pretty much wraps up our section on closing costs for today. Next week, we're going to be looking at strategies for buying and selling. And thank you very much for tuning in.
One thing I'd like to add is we found a really helpful calculator if you're thinking about making a move and want to look at your closing costs. We'll put the link in the comments below. And don't forget to share us, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, the things with the buttons, you guys probably know better than me what you do with those, but whatever you're supposed to do with them, do it.
We'll see you next time.
Take care.